Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of New York Power Hour. As probably most of you know, unfortunately, on Sunday it was announced that Nick Mangold passed away from kidney disease. Uh, he was a first round pick of the New York Jets in 2006. He was the 29th overall selection taken. He played for 11 years in the NFL, 7-time Pro Bowler, and a 2-time All Star. He really helped bridge the gap for a lot of generation of Jets fans as far as like the quarterbacks they had. He was there for Chad Pennington in the beginning. You know, Brett Favre, Mark Sanchez, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and honestly, he was all around just more than just being a great football player. He was all around a great guy. There's nobody that really ever had a bad word to say about him. He was a great teammate. Great father to his 4 kids, wonderful husband to his wife that I believe they met in high school. So it was a really sad day for the Jets community and fans as a whole. And I just wanted to take a little bit of time at the beginning of our show to just, mention him a little bit. And, he meant a lot to me as a Jets fan. He obviously is a center. As far as when other people looking at your team, he may not get as much shine, but Jets fans really loved him. He had a great personality. They inducted him to the Ring of Honor. When he retired, they signed a 1-day contract so he could retire as a Jet. So it was really just a sad day for Jets fans. And, obviously for this current Jets team, obviously expectations aren't very high, so you hope they get the first round, the number 1 overall pick. But it was cool to see them win one for Nick. So with that all being said, I guess we'll talk about the Jets win on Sunday, guys.
I don't know. I don't know. After last week, I mean, you were all about, let's take the loss. Let's go 0-17. Let's guarantee this first overall pick. And here they go, winning games. Jets go ahead, win games, and winning a game. They won a game. They did it. And how are you, Peter? How are you feeling about the win?
I mean, listen, the Dolphins winning helps that a little bit. I believe the Titans, though, also only have one, the Titans only have 1 win. Yep. So we have to keep up with them as far as the losses go. Honestly, I mean, it was probably the funniest part about the win is that Breece Hall threw the game-winning touchdown. Mason Taylor's first career touchdown catch. So good for him, too. But, I mean, I don't know. It was a weird game. Not a lot of defense. The offense of the Jets really didn't show up till late. But win's a win. I hope that it doesn't affect them getting the number 1 overall pick. But, we'll see what happens.
So, let me say a couple things about the first overall pick. I mean, first of all, it is going to be really difficult to compete with the Tennessee Titans for the first overall pick. They are awful. And their local market for me, so I watch them every weekend, and they're dog water. It is really difficult to watch them. I went back through the game. They've maxed out on 2 offensive touchdowns a game. That's the most that they can score in a game. And people talk about the win against the Cardinals. It wasn't a win against the Cardinals. It was a monumental loss for the Cardinals. That is how you lose a game. Improbable loss from the Cardinals. So if the plan is to get the first overall pick, y'all got to try harder, really hard to beat the
So
first overall pick.
I'm not threatened by the Titans' number 1 pick situation because since they just I'm not saying that they won't be worse than the Jets, right?
Yeah.
But the goal obviously is, if the Jets want to in this draft, is to take a quarterback.
Right.
And if they're going to take a quarterback, the Titans are not the people they're threatened by, right? Because of the fact that the Titans, at least for now, are going to invest in Cam Ward. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, but they could trade out of it.
Right, but I don't anticipate that it's a situation where they're necessarily going to, be like the biggest threat. That being said, too, the cream of the crop for the quarterbacks right now is not the cream of the crop for the quarterbacks we'd normally want in a draft. So it's one of those that I'm like, if they end up with the 2 or 3 pick, I'll be calm about it. It would be nice to have our choice and not have to worry about it. But there are also other teams. I mean, the Saints are gunning for a quarterback. I don't know if they're going to be gunning for one early or like they'll take whatever pick they end up with, because they're not looking like they're going to win too much this season either, speaking as a Saints fan. But as for the Jets, I mean, I don't know. I felt like it felt so Jetsian, and for once in a good way, to expect that they were going to win this week, because after the Mangold news, I was like, I feel like something's got to go on in this locker room, that they're going to sit there and say, look, we got to not look like bitches this week. And I mean that sincerely. Like, they just need to go out there and actually play a game. Justin Fields looked fine, which was nice. Brees Hall threw a game-winning touchdown, which was fun. We should do some, like, kind of things I was asking for earlier in the season, like actually use the guys you have. But I want to take a moment to echo the Nick Mangold thing, because that was an era of the Jets that I watched pretty religiously, because that was when I was learning football. And so it was so wild for me to watch. I think that was the year that they took Ferguson. They took DeBrickashaw Ferguson. They took Mangold in the first round, right? So their 2 first-round picks were 2 offensive linemen, which at the time some people were like, oh, that was nuts, right? Because that hadn't happened in –
No, I think I think they drafted Revis that round.
I don't know. You can check me, Walleye, because I feel like it was Brick and Mangold. And I remember at the very least Brick and Mangold being parts of that Jets offensive line for a long time, to the point where, like, yeah, because I remember this, because they had they installed like a stalwart offensive line. And so for years of watching, it was funny because that led into like the Rex Ryan years. And so in my head, I was like, oh, the Jets could be a run it down your mouth type of football team with a good offensive line. And they had a good defense, blitz heavy defense and things like that. So it was actually kind of fun watching the Jets back then. Of course, leading to Mark Sanchez, having some full years. Nick Mangold, I think, was somebody that everybody had good things to say about too. And dying at 41, I think it was about a week or so after he posted publicly he was looking for a kidney donation. I think that's the part that makes me feel type of bad, because, like, regardless of, I like Nick Mangold as a player, I like Nick Mangold as a person. He wasn't a personal friend or something, but I have only good things to say about him too. But it's the idea of, like, anybody in this time and age, I mean, 41 years old, who's like, hey, I need a kidney to try to stay alive. And then essentially by the time the process gets started, because there was an outcrying of support of people saying, like, oh, it's Nick Mangold. That's our guy. This could be a Hall of Famer for the Jets. Like, very underappreciated overall centers, but Jets fans loved him to death, because this was a guy that showed up with a smile and was just a fun part of the team. I always liked Nick Mangold. And so to see somebody pass away at 41 due to a complication like that is just sad. And I know that he is going to be, I think it's this year, that he's going to be on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. I don't know if I expect him to be like a first ballot Hall of Fame guy, considering the Jets didn't have an amazing amount of success. But I do think as centers go, he's a guy that will probably have a good shot of making the Hall of Fame down the line, especially with the emotions behind this happening. So it'll be good to see his legacy get honored. I feel bad for the wife. I feel bad for the kids. Again, 41 is just way too young, so I feel so sad for that situation. And a guy that has represented at least part of my understanding of watching the Jets for a bit. And again, like, he's not too much older than, or if not, he's not even older than some of the guys I talk to on a daily basis. So it does shake me up. I feel like the Jets went out and got that win because of it. I feel like whatever went on in that locker room, Aaron Glenn, they talked about it. They said, look, we've got to go up there and show up. We can't have this be a loss right now. And I like that. I mean, I'll put it aside. Like, if we start winning again next week, you might hear a different commentary where I turn into the Peter mode, where I'm like, guys, what are you doing? What are we doing here? We do need a top draft pick, all right? We can't do like draft 11 or draft pick 12 here. We need like a top 5 pick, all right? But we got the nice win off the books. And honestly, I guess it's good to not go 0-17 too. My first kind of inclination was I'm fine with us being like 1-16. I didn't want us to be an 0-17 team. I would have been pretty upset about that, just because I don't want to have that to hang our hats on. The Jets have enough to deal with overall. So and good brand of football. It doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of the season, because they're not going to make the playoffs, but it is going to be a tough one, because they've played hard for a lot of these games and have come close in a few games and haven't been able to get over the hurdle. At least for Aaron Glenn to have a real shake and figure out, like, is this a guy that you see him into next year, into year 3, like building with the Jets? Can he do something? that was good too. That one I'll say that maybe this is something that the players, you get a taste of victory, and it's like, all right, they continue to play hard throughout the year, and we don't have any incredibly embarrassing performances from so we'll see. But that is what it is in terms of Jets side of town. And if you guys want to say anything else, you can. Outside of that, I know also on the Giants side of town, there's some struggles because as soon as they got their burst of energy from the rookie, Scatterboo is now out for the rest of the year, and then some. He'll probably be good for training camp, but his ankle got dislocated. He had a ligament damage, and I think he had a surgery to get that fixed, right?
Yeah. Apparently it wasn't. Well, it did look terrible. It could have been a lot worse. So yeah, he's expected to make it back for training camp. But going back to the Jets real quick, I will say as far as the quarterbacks go that are potential, that are potentially be drafted early in the first round. I've been watching football for a long time. I've seen so many different can't miss quarterbacks and strong quarterback classes that really just didn't pan out. So I don't put too much stock into all that. If you're there, if he's there, you draft the guy you think is going to be good, and maybe he works out. But also, if they end up, does Brees? No, they're not trading Brees Hall. That's crazy. Like if they're going to trade him, it's going to be in the offseason.
I don't think Brees Hall's getting moved. I see,
especially since you just traded a player to clear up a bunch of cap space today. You're not trading Brees Hall.
Yeah, they traded Michael Carter for John Mechie. I think John Mechie the third, because I remember him with the Texans, and it was one of those classic 6-7 swaps, as the kids say. But the Jets got a sixth out of it. The Eagles got a seventh. But it was. I mean, that's just that. NFL's been doing it before the kids have been doing it, honestly. How many trades have you seen where you send a player with a 6th-round pick for a different player and a 7th-round pick? So the Jets will take the move up in the round. That's fine. As for the quarterbacks, I mean, I don't know if you guys are Tankathon people. I use Tankathon a lot to track stuff because my teams have sucked for years. So I've been very used to using Tankathon to see where my draft picks will end up. And they generally rank the quarterbacks that are going to – right now the big board shows that the Saints, the Jets, and I believe the Titans are 1, 2, 3. Yeah, because they each have one win each. So we've got 1-7 New Orleans, 1-7 Jets, the 1-7 Tennessee Titans at 1, 2, 3. The trade deadline's in 5 days. And out of those three, I mean – their projected stuff, which again isn't perfect, has Fernando Mendoza going to the Saints, Dante Moore going to the Jets, and edge rusher Reuben Baines Jr. going to the Titans, which is to be expected if they keep their picks and they don't switch around. The quarterbacks that do have some buzz going in, I mean, Mendoza and Dante Moore, Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina, I know Ty Simpson out of Alabama. And there has been some local talk that Garrett Nussmeier, that his family works for the Saints out of LSU, and that some people believe that the Saints are secretly looking at Nussmeier, who's a little bit later in the board, so it might be a guy they don't necessarily have to reach for. Mendoza's my favorite out of the set, but I do agree with what you're saying, Peter. I mean, I've seen so much can't miss quarterbacks. I've also seen the idea of, like, quarterbacks come to the Jets and they're good when they leave the Jets, speaking to the fact that we have a terrible developmental system. And we do. The Jets absolutely have a terrible developmental system for quarterbacks. So it's one of those things where, like, I feel like you could have put – I mean, you look at Sam Darnold right now. I mean, I was so excited when the Jets got Sam Darnold because I thought, okay, through and through, this is the best quarterback prospect the Jets have had in my lifetime in terms of actual skill, talent, ability, because Mark Sanchez was – a guy who was a game manager at best, and that's with respect to him, right? But the other guys they've drafted over the years, Christian Hackenberg, Zach Wilson, for Christ's sake, I was very anti-Zach Wilson. I liked Darnold a lot. I was huge on Darnold, was very happy about him, and it was one of those things where it never panned out. He looks a lot better outside of the Jets. So I'm also mentally prepared, much like Peter is, that we get that pick. We draft Fernando Mendoza, the guy that I want, and then he sucks here for 4 years, and he ends up over in Arizona and then becomes a useful quarterback. Like, I'm fully prepared for that to be a thing, too, and I'm sure Peter is as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you say the Jets are bad at, developing, quarterbacks. Like I've been saying for, these past couple of shows we were talking about the Jets. That starts at the head. That starts at Woody Johnson. Today, a former quarterback, granted he was hurt the whole time, so he never played, Jordan Travis talked about an interaction that he's had a bunch of times with Woody Johnson, where the only thing he'd ever say to him is, "Man, are you ever going to be healthy?" Like, not really any care or concern of like himself, like, "Hey, how you doing?" Just always like, "Are you ever going to play?" And it's just, if that's the type of energy your owner's bringing from the top, that's never.
And Jordan Travis retired. I
Yeah.
feel so like he was like, I think it was like a 5th or 6th round pick, right? And some people were talking, hey, he's a developmental quarterback because you take.
I actually really liked the pick.
Yeah,
I like
fourth. I did too. And fourth on, I was like, you know what? This is a great pick because if he gets healthy, he's a guy that you got at a very, very good value moment in the draft. And if he can even serve as a game manager and average quarterback, this team had talent around it. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, these type of guys that I'm like, this could be a successful team. Not a playoff, like, oh my God, Super Bowl team, but they could actually put up a fight. And so I like the Jordan Travis pick. I was kind of upset at the whole situation hearing that today because – I mean, let's be real. That's embarrassing, right? That's just absolutely embarrassing. You drafted a guy who was injured. You knew he was injured. And you go ahead and you're like, hey, are you ever going to get healthy? I mean, from the owner, that's clown material. That's absolutely embarrassing. The idea of the fact that you're sitting here saying, that was my interactions with the owner. Who it's not like he got injured. Like they knew he was in. That's why he fell down the boards. And a part of me felt like that kind of prompted him to retire. Like if he just sat there, like, I'm going to come back with the Jets and this is going to be my job, I'm just going to leave. Right. And so I feel bad about that. But, I'm starting to become, I guess, one of that mold that believes that if the Jets don't change ownership, that no matter how many chairs they move, it's a sinking ship because the captain is rotten. Right? If Woody Johnson's at the helm, no matter what contingencies you have, no matter what happens, no matter what sparks of joy that we have, we're going to be in a situation where it just seems like the Jets are going to be screwed for a while if Woody's the one calling the shots at the end of the day. We've heard so many stories about how bad he is at managing the Jets as a franchise, from taking his son's advice on Madden ratings towards certain players. And this, like, you're asking a quarterback, not if he's okay or anything, or when are you going to get healthy? When are you going to provide me something? At the end of the day, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, I hate that it just keeps getting more embarrassing. I hate that it keeps getting more embarrassing because there are potentially good players here. And I don't want to deal with the fact that they've got to be walked into a Woody Johnson franchise. And I don't even know, I talk about Cohen a lot on the Mets side about how much money they put into investing into analytics development and things like that. And even to the Yankees' credit, right? They're pretty good in terms of analytics and analyzing things. They're smarter. The teams are moving in the right direction. I know that's baseball, right? But football, there's got to be things going on. People understand that, like, you can target certain prospects later in the round and get something of them, certain skill sets, things like that. And it feels like we're a little stuck in the past over on the Jets side.
Well, even to that, like, yeah, the Mets have been putting a lot of money into that, but they've also just been putting a lot of money into, like, family programs and stuff. And, the person side of your organization's players. So, like, and the Jets have historically ranked, if not last, the bottom 3 of those kinds of grades. So, like, when you add that to former players talking about the owner that way, if you're a free agent, why would you come?
Oh, that was another thing too. I think you just hit on something. I remember that survey came out, I think, in this offseason, right? That the Jets were considered to have, like, some of the worst facilities in the NFL. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you're exactly right. I mean, I hate to say it, but why would you want to come to the Jets unless you're getting an overpay? And even then, we've seen guys get an overpay and then just mail it in for us. Right. Mm-hmm. So, like, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't understand the motivation if that's going on. We'll see. But it feels like you've got to overcome way too much to be good on the Jets right now.
But, Luke, unless you have anything else to add on the Jets, I guess we can go on to the Giants and Scatterbo specifically.
Yeah, the Eagles faced the Giants again, and it looked like they were much better prepared for the threat of Jackson Dart and the dynamic Giants situation right now. The Giants' outlook, I think, for the future is still pretty bright because when you think about it, next year they're going in with, I mean, this is with the hope that Neighbors and Scatabo are going to be fully healthy going into the season, right? And Neighbors had an ACL, so it's no guarantee that he's going to be in a situation where he's 100%. But at the very least, even 80%, I think, of Malik Neighbors is still a really clear and ahead wide receiver one, right? So you've got Jackson Dart next year if he can stay healthy. Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatabo. So you've got RB1, wide receiver 1, quarterback 1. So the Giants overall are going to be in a decent spot to figure those things out. Right now, they've just got to, I mean, they've probably saved Daboll's job another year based on that. So we'll see what happens as long as they don't completely get. You shook your head there, Luke. Do you not agree about that one?
I'm 50-50 on it right now. I mean,
talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're winning games. They're winning games because Jackson Dart has ignited energy in the team. They didn't win games last year. They didn't win games the year before. They didn't win with Russell Wilson at quarterback. I don't think that Brian Daboll's job is dependent on Jackson Dart's success or the team's success at this point. I think the team could easily turn around and say, "Hey, we want to bring in someone new." And Jackson, you're just, this is going to be a fresh start for everybody. I think that's a very high possibility this offseason for the Giants.
It very well could be. I will say John Mara has definitely showed, I will say, more loyalty than your average NFL owner to keeping guys. I do feel like if Jackson Dart truly is your franchise QB, I do feel like he is going to have a decent amount of say in it. If he wants somebody new, if he really likes that, Brian. So we'll see what happens. But I think he's going to stay at least one more year. Honestly, I think the Giants have an opportunity to do some really cool things in the draft. Their offensive line's solid. Their defense is okay, but especially with Neighbors maybe not be 100% next year. Why not? If he's there, why not draft another wide receiver?
Their defensive front is insane, right? You have Brian Burns, you have Thibodeau, and you have Dexter Lawrence. I don't know who else you want on a defensive line to make it elite. It's their secondary that's awful. And granted, they've been dealing with injuries, right? They've pulling guys off the practice squad to play against the Eagles this week. You're going up against Devontae Smith. You didn't have a chance. You don't have a chance when you have that lack of experience and preparation. So I think the Giants defense definitely has potential. They have to address the secondary. And I think the offense has potential as well, but again, they're limping around, right? You don't have Malik Neighbors. Bellinger got hurt in the game, and Cam Scatterboot's foot was going in the wrong direction. I mean, not to joke about it, but it was probably one of the most disgusting things I've seen on live TV. And people talk about the Theismann and Alex Smith injury. They didn't want to re-show Cam Scatterboot's injury. That's how bad it was. It was. I caught it. If you were watching it live, you caught a glimpse of it, and it was pretty gruesome. So, I'm glad that he was able to get carted off. I'm glad he's going to be back for hopefully back for training camp next year. But yeah, that's a tough loss for this Giants offense. That's just meh right now. It's just it is literally limping around, and Jackson Dart is doing all he can to try and ignite it.
So I'm gonna pull up I'm gonna use Tankathon here because just for the sake of conversation, right? This is obviously right now. This would be where the draft picks are. The Giants are falling around 6. They have a mock to take Jordan Tyson, who is considered to be the most explosive receiver going into this draft, right? However, you can see some guys there. Jermar McCoy going at 12 here to the Rams in this trade because they got the pick traded over. So that might be a guy they target in terms of cornerback. Peter, you mentioned there might be some avenues to do something interesting during the draft for the Giants. And I'm going to echo that thought. I agree with you because there are some guys here you can see. I don't expect them to go edge or DL. I do think they're going to figure that one out. I do think secondary is a big one. So you might see if the Giants end up somewhere in the top 10, which would make sense, that they end up taking somebody like Jermar McCoy because if they believe in Dart, and I think at the moment they should, they're not going to take quarterback. I don't think they're going to be as high as the Browns and take Caleb Downs. If they end up in a position like that to take Caleb Downs, take a safety, sure, serves the same purpose. The offensive lineman, maybe there's a thought that maybe you get one of those guys. There is quite a few that are being mocked early on, Fano and Francis Magua and Caden Proctor, right? Those guys could be on the table for them. But I do think they're in a good position where if you think you have wide receiver 1, quarterback 1, and RB1 down, it gives you options where you are. Because you could legitimately be in a position where, let's say they are around 6 or 7, right? And Jordan Tyson is on the board. And they're like, no, we have Neighbors. We feel okay with our corp. They can trade down. And somebody will make the move for Tyson and just amass more picks. So the fact that these guys have just been above average, as good as advertised in some cases, has been a real boon for the Giants and what they need to do going forward.
I think a win for the Giants in the offseason, first and foremost, getting a wide receiver 2 to complement Malik Neighbors, give you a little bit more depth there. I don't think the draft in the secondary is the way to go. I think trying to get veteran players in your secondary is where you're going to win the offseason, right? You have all of these veteran players on the defensive line. You do not have time to develop a cornerback. And it takes time. It takes time for cornerbacks outside of, Darrelle Revis, outside of Sauce Gardner. It takes time to develop a good cornerback in this league. Get some guys who are experienced, get some guys who are ball hawks, and run that defense. Because you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time with that front line right now.
I completely agree, Luke. I think that, drafting secondary, specifically cornerbacks, can be very hit or miss. And you can definitely, especially if you draft a veteran guy that's solid, it's not going to cost you that much.
No,
yeah,
it's really not. It's really not. I mean, it's probably a late round draft pick, or if you're getting him in free agency, I mean, it's probably going to be a couple year deal, and you're probably moving, I don't know, 8 to 12 million a year for them. So it's not a huge investment. It's not a huge investment, but at least you'll have your veteran guy playing on the outside. Ram, you're muted right now, bud.
Yep, we're good. So projected some free agents and stuff here. I'm going to pull up some images as well. Let's take a look. So these are projected free agent cornerbacks. There are some names here that might actually move the needle. Stokes, Alexander, Elam. Obviously at the top, Darius Slay is a guy who's getting older, right? You can see the age is on here too. But there are some interesting names, maybe not so great in the cornerback, but I agree with the idea of investing in quarterback maybe later in the draft. Like you can easily get a round 3, round 4 cornerback who could probably come in and do some stuff. The pickings at wide receiver, though, if you want to go the route of signing a veteran wide receiver, as you were alluding to, Luke, there are some decent pickups on the wide receiver side. If you want to go ahead, I mean, you can take a look here. There are some names here that could make some moves. I mean, nothing crazy, but I mean, Debo is going to be a free agent. Mike Evans is still a reliable guy, right? I mean, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown is not a number 1, but he's a guy that can do something. Juwan Jennings struggled to be healthy, but talented guy. The point is, there are some options.
I guess for me, and this is total perception, but I feel like you get a lot more value out of the younger flex positions, right? Running back, wide receiver, than you do at the younger cornerback, right? You get a lot more explosiveness, you get a lot more speed, less likely for injury than the veteran players. Now, I mean, veteran players can always come around and surprise you. I mean, there's always going to be a diamond in the rough there, but I think you get a lot more value in the secondary for veteran players, and I think you get more value out of the draft for flex.
So if this was the board, like the board stayed just about the same as here, right? And the Giants did have Jordan Tyson available to them, widely considered the best wide receiver out of this draft, you would go with Jordan Tyson?
I would consider that a very large win for the Giants. We'd consider that a very large win for the Giants.
I don't disagree. I'm just curious to hear about it because, like, I do think that there is a large gap between Tyson and a lot of the rest of the receivers coming out of this draft. This isn't exactly a super lauded and exciting draft for a lot of people, but Jordan Tyson's a big deal, big receiver that can make some changes over there. I mean, if he comes to be as advertised and Neighbors is healthy, I mean, Neighbors and Tyson could torment people for years. Like, you know, you've got Chase and Higgins to give an example over. I mean, Burrow's a different quarterback. I'm just saying, like, 2 wide receiver tandems are a big thing in this league. I mean, your Lions have a plethora of options to the point where, like, not all the mouths get fed, right? And that's a big
Right.
deal for them.
Well, and that's exactly my point. I mean, you look at the successful offenses in the league, and they have options, and that's not what the Giants have right now. You felt like they kind of did at the beginning of the season, but with the injury to Neighbors, the injury to Scadaboo, there's nothing. There's nothing to provide for Jackson Dart right now. Get the guys healthy, get some more weapons on the offensive side, and give him those options to throw to. He can't throw to Theo Johnson every single play. Like that cannot be the offensive game plan. And you also can't have him running the option every other play.
Yeah, especially if you think of it from a money perspective. A great wide receiver is always going to cost you more money than a great cornerback,
Right.
if they're the same age. So if you can get Jordan Tyson in the first round, you're set for 6 years without even having to 5-6 years without having to pay him.
You think about that from a managerial perspective, right? Your three biggest stars on the offensive, your four biggest stars on the offensive side are all on rookie deals, right? Neighbors hasn't gotten his big contract yet. Dart's still years away. Whoever you draft, if it is Jordan Tyson, again, obviously on a rookie deal, and Scadaboo as well, right? So you have the flexibility to build both on the defensive side, and if you want to add some more experience on the offensive line, you have it there. So I think a wide receiver would be a huge win for the Giants if they can get one early in the draft.
Yeah, especially one of the caliber of Tyson. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think what my takeaway is, at the very least, is the idea that they're going to have options. And that's definitely a good thing in this league, because you need options, especially what you're looking at in the division. And I want to actually switch into a similar conversation of something you brought up, Luke, in the messages that I want to talk about. The tush push. They're going against the Eagles twice a year, right? And I mean, we can't help but talk about this, so let's bring it up, because in game one of Giants versus Eagles, right? So game one of Giants versus Eagles, we saw at one point during the game, if you were watching that game, which was really unfun, you watched the Eagles go for a tush push, I think 4 consecutive times to go a few yards, and it was a pain in the ass. But the big thing here, Kayvon Thibodeaux forced what looked like to me, and this is an unbiased me because I don't have anything in the Giants-Eagles dimension, it looked like a fumble to me, and the referees ruled it as a forward progress based on what Hurts was doing. So it could have been Giants ball turned into what would be a supposed forward progress, no turnover. So the conversation has been reignited. I mean, in the offseason, there was an attempt to ban the tush push. It didn't have enough votes. Now we're in a position where it might come back. Right, it might be back on the table again, and Ash is back. I don't know if you got to see that play, Ash, but they're talking about that tush push again. And now, at least from Giants land, and it's gotten some national coverage again, to ban the tush push once again and saying that it's not a play that should be viable. It's been a very complicated conversation for a long time, because it's one of those things where banning the tush push as a play is one of them that the Eagles argue that like the play is available to everybody. They just have specific personnel that are able to capitalize on it. And so that makes it difficult. Some of the league seems to agree with them because, again, the original vote did not get through. But after another situation where they still don't know necessarily how to officiate it, could have been a fumble, they went ahead and called it forward progress. There's a lot of talks around the league that there are also numerous false starts on the tush push, that doesn't get enough like view in terms of people paying attention, and that there's constantly false starts when you look at the tush push, and that allows them to get away with it. Luke, you were the one who sent the message about it, so I kind of want to let you talk about it. What are your thoughts about this, and do you feel they should ban the tush push?
I think it was one of the most egregious non-calls I've seen on television. I mean, it was, and it's blatant. I mean, it's blatant as a viewer that Thibodeaux ripped the ball out of his hands. His knee was not down. No part of his body was down, and there was no whistle. Like that was the worst part. There was no whistle that went off. So here he is. Here he is doing what he's supposed to be doing as a football player, which is get the ball and get it back for your offense. And it was all for none. At first, I was like, yeah, let's ban the tush push. I don't think it's possible. I don't think banning the tush push is actually possible. I mean, you can't just take that play out of a team's playbook. And I've seen it a number of times. There are teams that are very unsuccessful with the tush push as well.
Well, it's actually, I mean, I actually think it should be banned. I don't think it's a legitimate play. This is a play that actually was banned for a long time in college. If you guys, I might be showing my age, but if you remember the Bush push, that was Reggie Bush in USC in the national championship, where Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, were playing together, and there was the push play that was basically a tush push play in the national championship that was pretty controversial because at that time in college it was illegal and it wasn't called. So it is possible to ban it. I think that there's a couple of issues that I have with it. One being that I don't think it's a legitimate play where other people are just pushing the guy from behind. I don't think he's obtaining forward progress on his own. But then, too, I think there's a safety issue because a lot of times you start seeing where the quarterback starts to go down, there's guys running up behind him and things like that. I think there's a chance for injury. But then also, it is a very difficult play to officiate. Many officials have been speaking out on this. Like, it's hard to place the spot of the ball where the forward progress definitely ended. A lot of times it's hard to see where the ball even is because there's a mass of people, just a scrum of people all clustered together.
Well, I think the NFL was trying to address that with the automatic review of first downs, right? They what is it, the virtual first down that they can look at really quickly. So I mean, they're trying to address that. For me, it's not the play itself; it's the fact that it wasn't challengeable. Like that's the part that frustrates me. He threw the red flag. He was ready to challenge, and they couldn't even look at it. Like, they couldn't look at it from a fumble perspective because you can't challenge a forward progress play. So if you're going to invite this play and it's really difficult to officiate, you need to give the officials every ability to look at this again. And if they can't, if coaches can't challenge and give the officials the ability to look at it again, then it's useless. It's absolutely useless.
Yeah, so my opinion on it, Trey Wingo, I posted a few tweets here throughout, but Richard Sherman's take on it here, just saying the more I watch the play, the more confused I am. But Trey Wingo's take is actually pretty much aligned with what my thought process is, and sort of echoing what you were saying there, Luke. I don't think it needs to be banned, but it does need to be officiated correctly. We know the play is going to be there. So you need to have guidance on what is a false start and what isn't for the tush push, and also what is the challengeable part of it or not, because to me, clear as day, I mean, look, that's a fumble. Ball got knocked out. That's a fumble, baby. I mean, that's a way to defend the tush push. And so if you're telling me that a legal defensive maneuver to cause a fumble can't be done because of forward progress, then, I mean, do you just want them to, run the ball for 5 yards and then tush push every play to get the first? Because hypothetically, that's what you're saying is okay. If you're giving them this type of, realm to do so, if they get a 5-yard pass play or something, and then they're going 2nd and 5, and they can get 2 yards, they'll get a first down every time out. So for me, I just think you do need to have, if you're not going to ban it, which I am okay with, I'm okay with them not banning it, you need to have much more clear guidance on what is allowed for this play, what isn't, and officiate it correctly. It's not some trick play that was made up yesterday. We have seen countless instances of the tush push right now. And I think it's fine to let it go, but you can't put it in a position where it's essentially like an unblockable maneuver in a video game. That was a fumble to me. Mm-hmm. And I think that screws up the whole dynamic of the game, and that's not fun to watch as a fan of football. And truthfully, look, that first game against the Giants when they ran the tush push 4 times, that wasn't fun for me to watch either, because that just felt like they were trying to prove a point and do something stupid. And I don't know. But Peter, I haven't touched on your thoughts about this here. I haven't picked your mind on the tush push. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I agree with Trey Wingo here. I don't think it needs to be banned either. But you need to. It is a difficult play to defend, and if you have the officials, I get it. It's the rule for they were wrong on it, obviously, but I get it. It's the rule of forward progress, so you can't challenge forward progress. But they need to stop handcuffing the referees, what they can or cannot do. I do believe eventually the league will figure it out. I remember the Dolphins winning the division one year, basically solely off the Wildcat formation, and then the next year in the offseason they figured it out, and people tried to replicate that success, and it was pretty much a 1-year thing. So I'm not too worried about tush push like taking over the NFL per se, but if the referees are going to be handicapped by their own rules, then the Eagles are just going to keep exploiting that.
And actually, the Wildcat was also much more of a college thing than it was an NFL thing too, right?
Well, with the exception of the Dolphins, like Peter was saying, that one season, man, they were running a lot.
Right, but
And
I
in
mean,
fact,
it was primarily
because,
only college, though, right? Like outside of that Dolphin season, like we'd never really seen that used to actual success in the
especially
NFL.
with Arkansas was one of the teams in college that was running it a lot. I'm blanking on the running back that played a long time in the NFL that was playing at
Ronnie
Arkansas.
Brown. Ronnie Brown. Dolphins.
No, it wasn't one of the Dolphins running backs, but I do remember
McFadden?
the Dolphins that year though, because like John Gruden was on Monday Night Football as one of the commentators, and he was advocating that they should just run it 100% of the time, which I didn't necessarily agree with that. But
That was McFadden, wasn't it?
Darren McFadden, yeah,
that was
Arkansas.
McFadden because he was pretty effective in the NFL too while he was
Yeah.
healthy. So I remember that he was the Arkansas. That was like the mid 2000s
Yeah,
when McFadden was
Houston
around and
Nutt
like
as a
yeah.
coach.
Yeah, and the Jets actually ran the Wildcat in 09 and 010 a little bit more of as like a change of pace play with Brad Smith.
Brad Smith, the Brad Smith.
They were actually
good
compared to other teams, relatively successful.
Yeah, because at that time they also still had a really good offensive line. I think that was also a part of it. They had an adaptive and intuitive offensive line that moved with the ball for the Wildcat.
And Brad Smith played quarterback in college, so he could throw the ball.
Yeah, Brad Smith was quarterback, wide receiver, running back. I actually very much enjoy – I love gadget players. I very much enjoy the idea of a guy that can do something like that because it's just fun to watch somebody be like – it's sort of like why I like Taysom Hill for a bit on the Saints, where like Taysom Hill's good for like a 3-touchdown game every year when you don't expect it because suddenly he's like destroying people as a running back. He catches a pass as a tight end. He throws a pass as a quarterback. That stuff is fun. I enjoy it. Football should be fun. But
I have wondered why they don't just put in like a running back to take that snap during the tush push, though, in an obvious tush push play situations.
Because Jalen Hurts is big enough that they don't need to.
What'd you say?
Because Jalen Hurts is big enough that you don't need to.
I just think it exposes your quarterback to injury. Really, I mean, there's a lot of guys in that scrum that could take cheap shots. Somebody go down at his knees. I mean, there's just a lot of potential for injury, in my opinion. That
I think
I'd rather have a running back.
I think typically your quarterback is taller than your running back. I think it gives you a little bit more length to stretch out the ball. That's probably the argument for quarterback versus. But I agree, Ash. I mean, it's super dangerous for the quarterbacks and
but dangerous for everybody, right? I mean, Jason Kelce talked about the fact that, like, listen, you guys talked about the tush push free. Obviously, he's talking from a position of being inside it, right? But he was like that hurt like a motherfucker. Right, like that tush push was not, and Hurts has talked about it. Like it takes a very specific personnel group to be able to do it, and it lost some effectiveness after losing Jason Kelce because he was getting beat down during these things. He's bearing the brunt of it, and Jalen Hurts is getting pushed from the back and things like that. So, like, if you're not, it's not good for longevity either. It is definitely a risky play. And so in that case, I can understand, like, I know that's one of the angles they used to say, like, hey, that's why we should ban it. It's not, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think it's anything because the tush for me, the reason I'm not necessarily against banning it is that at max, it's like a 1 to 2 yard gain. And I know that like in 4th and 1s and 4th and 2s, the Eagles have a great conversion rate because of it. So I understand it is kind of like, okay, we've got something special. But for me, it also feels like the idea of like, in a lot of places, you know what plays are going to happen in positions like that. Like you look at the Chiefs, right? For a long time, it's not so often now, but like Mahomes was going to Kelce on any kind of major play, and Kelce was going to physically dominate these guys, and you could double him, you could do what you want. It was just your guys versus our guy. My frustration with this weekend's thing, very much aligned with what Luke was saying, is that it's the officiating. Like, all right, fine, you found a way to beat it. Right? The Giants got in there and caused a fumble. They saw it enough. Like, so that should be a fumble. That in itself should be a deterrent to using the play. But now you've got a situation where if they're not going to call the false starts and they're not going to cause the fumbles, then it is kind of a super protected play for no reason. And it felt like one of the first times in a while I watched them quick whistle the tush push, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course the quick whistle protects them from a fumble. It does feel unfortunate for Eagles fans out there. I'm not taking shots at you. Normally I will. If you're Phillies fans, I absolutely will. But in this case, I'm not. It's just a matter of like, this is football, and I think that was a fumble, and they got away with one there. And it makes it puts them in a position where it just feels unfair, because how am I, as a defensive coordinator, supposed to scheme against it? If I can get a fumble, if you're not calling the false start, do I just have to let it happen?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's so poorly officiated, and I'm sure extremely frustrating for a Giants fan to watch that, because I'm not even a Giants fan, and I was extremely frustrated watching that play unfold.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, looking forward to to next week. I mean, I think the Jets, I got to double check the schedule here.
Jets are on the bye. Just on the bye right now.
Jets have got a bye, and the 49ers are heading to town to face the Giants, which the 49ers might be getting Brock Purdy back, so it's going to be even further tough matchup there for the Giants. So you've got the scroller at the bottom here, by the way, as we'll move off football with the Blue Jays beating the Dodgers 6-1. They're now up 3-2 and going home for the last two games of the series. We can switch over to baseball as far as the Mets and the Yankees in a moment, but it has been, at least, contrary to what Yankees fans that aren't Luke have been telling me, an entertaining World Series, to say the least. I've been having fun watching the games. Saw an 18-inning barn burner the other day that I was only upset about because the Jays didn't win. But
did you make it to the last pitch?
I did. I watched the whole game out, and
I fell asleep in the 17th. I'm so mad still.
No, I watched through it, and kudos to Freddie Freeman, who, as much as I hate him as a Mets killer, is an all-around outstanding player and has continued to be useful for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hits the walk-off there, and then kudos to the Blue Jays, though, for coming back, taking that punch in the mouth, winning the game, and then winning another game. I was sitting there thinking, oh, man, whoever wins this 18-inning game might take the momentum for the series. I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong about that. The Blue Jays turned around and said, no, we're not going to die. This might have even invigorated them. I mean, if they had won that 18-inning game somehow, if they scratched out a run, this World Series would be over right now. And so it's, and this is fun for me because there were a lot of Dodgers fans who were saying, oh, the Dodgers in 5, that the Blue Jays have no chance. The Dodgers pitching is something, but the Blue Jays are ignoring all of that. And it's honestly a lot of fun for me to see because, I mean, I love parity in the league. I don't like to see dynasties. I want to see the Blue Jays haven't had a title since 1993, I believe, and this is a big deal for them. I'm having fun watching it. They're going home with the chance. They just got to win 1 or 2, and if the Dodgers win, it's going to be an extreme heartbreak. I don't want to think about that, even as somebody who's not a fan of the Jays. But it's been at the very least an entertaining World Series, and I mean, I know Ash has been watching. Lou, Peter, have you guys been catching much of the World Series and seeing what's going on there?
Did you guys see like the really important stat about the World Series and Brad Paisley? Did you guys hear about this?
Yes, go ahead, Luke.
He's done the national anthem 4 times during the World Series. All 4 times the game have gone to extra innings. Twice.
And the only 2 18-inning World Series games, yes, Brad Paisley has been the one who's done the national anthem.
So if you're watching, future World Series games and you see Brad Paisley step up to do the national anthem, just lock
come
in.
Back in a few hours.
Take a quick nap, get ready to pick up the game in the 10th inning because that's where it's going.
I do think it's hilarious because at first it was like, hey, the only 2 extra 18-inning games in the World Series have been Brad Paisley national anthems, and then it expanded to every World Series game that Brad Paisley has done the anthem has been an extra inning game, which I think is hilarious. Because that's just one of those weird like quirks of baseball, but hell of it. I mean, it was a long game. I mean, it finished like near 3 a.m, so that was like about a 6-hour affair, 6.5-hour affair for that game. No Manfred Mann runner in there. We did have a lot of debate. So
I got. You mean
no such thing as a ghost runner.
Ghost runner? You mean a ghost runner? It's a ghost runner.
Avoiding
there's a real person out there, then it's not a ghost.
Avoiding Ash trying to commit a murder on Luke on screen here. I will throw it out to you guys just because as we turn into some more baseball talk, 18-inning game went on for 6.5 hours. Some people think it's good for the game. Some people think it's bad for the game. Does the 18-inning game, or length of that game, speak to an argument that we should have a Manfred man automatic runner in extra innings in the World Series?
It's more exciting.
No, I think for the regular season, 100% have the ghost runner out there, keep the game short. For the World Series, it's just like every other sport. I mean, look at hockey, right? You have overtime and you have shootout. You keep the games quick, keep the guys fresh. But when you get into the playoffs, it's best team wins. I don't want to see 3v3. I don't want to see shootout. I want to see 5v5 the whole time, and I want to know who the best team is at the end. I don't give me a ghost runner on second base in the 10th inning in a World Series game. I would hate to see that. I would hate to see that. I'm sorry. I would really hate to see that if someone just came out and said, okay, well, we're going to get a base hit, or we're going to get a sack bunt, sack fly, and then shut you out in the bottom of the 10th.
Isn't that baseball? Moving the runner over, sacrificing him over.
That's boring. That is boring. That's
somebody has to get on base first for that to happen.
It's more exciting when
that doesn't dictate that you are the best team. I'm sorry, that doesn't dictate that.
Ash, I gave Lucas time. Because you oppose him here, what are your thoughts on it?
No, it's exciting. It adds an element of excitement to that moment. It makes it even more precarious for the pitcher, adding that drama element to it. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, and the thing of it is like, I always hear people say things like, oh, can't they just leave the game alone? They've been changing the game for 150 years.
And I'm not,
if they just left the game alone, the pitchers would still.
You and I have talked about this enough. I'm not one of those guys who just, let's stick to the game. Like, oh, it was great in 1900s. Like, and that's how we should keep the game forever. Like, no, like there had needed to be adaptations to the game. But it's the World Series, and that it's not indicative. If you put a guy on second base,
World Cup to go to penalty shots.
Yeah, but that's soccer. Like, come on, like
Peter, soccer's your specialty, but I saw you agreeing with Luke over there. What are your thoughts? I'm getting the gist that you're with Luke, that you would not want the Manfred man.
Absolutely not. Listen, and especially if you're thinking about it the way Rob Manfred would, it's all about TV. If it's 2:00 in the morning anyway, it's not like it's not like it's really messing with this TV programming. Like, it's still going to be the most watched thing by far. Like, there's no shows on at 2:00 in the morning. It's just infomercials and garbage. So and reruns. So it's the TV isn't going to mind because they're just going to get great viewership into the night. As far as that moment, that Freddie Freeman walk-off home run in the bottom of the 18th, that's going to, if the Dodgers win this series, that's going to live on in baseball lore. And you take that away from the game by adding the ghost runner, the Manfred runner, whatever you want to call it. And yes, I understand during the regular season it is a necessity because you cannot have 18-inning games on a regular basis in the regular season. There's too many games for that. But when it comes to the playoffs, where you're to win the championship, you can't be giving these teams a free runner on second. Like, yeah, Ash, baseball, yeah, a sack bunt, a bloop, and a whatever. Yeah, that's baseball. But the other that's after somebody got on base.
Both teams get the same advantage.
I believe the home team has an advantage with the ghost runner.
The home team always has the advantage because they bat last.
I think they're at an even.
Listen, again, there have been some wonderful changes. While it does kind of ruin the in-person experience, the pitch clock has been great. Expansion of replay has been great. I wish they expand it more, if anything. But no, that's crazy. Just throwing a guy on second just because we want this game to end. No,
it's supposed to be historic, right? Like, we're supposed to get 18-inning games in the World Series. Like, that's how you remember World Series, right? Like,
as long as we're playing baseball after this, let them burn their bullpen.
Right. Now. It's supposed to be a grind. Like, you're not supposed to go home early as a player. Like, this is the end. This is the final push. Like, yeah, play an 18-inning game. Show us that you want this World Series.
I think I think another thing that I've seen going around the internet on social media the last couple of days was, should managers only be able to intentionally walk a player one time per game?
Yes.
That would be an interesting thing to me, because like Ohtani had 4 intentional walks in that game.
No, that's bullshit. That's total bullshit. People
want to see him bat.
Yeah.
I see a head nod from Luke and a head shake from Peter. Do we have something that Peter, you think that should not be instituted?
Yeah, I don't think it should be at all.
Peter doesn't like change. That's the thing.
I just told you 2 things, and a thing that I wish that baseball would expand as far as change. Like, why are we like? I don't think that you should be instituting the limits on intentional walks. Like, that's like, I get it, but like it's part of that. I don't think that. Like, I get Ohtani, but it's for Ohtani, because Ohtani's crazy. If a player hits 3 home runs, you want to know what they're going to do then? Great. You don't want to intentionally walk them. They're just going to throw 4 pitches. Like
that, I agree with. They're just going to throw them way off the plate.
That's actually my thing. In concept, I agree with it. Like, I like the idea that you should only be able to intentionally walk somebody once per game, because I do think you got to give these guys the opportunity to play the game. But if you tell them, oh, you can only walk Ohtani intentionally once a game, it's exactly as Peter said. I mean, they unintentionally walked him, I think, in the 12th or whatever it was when they were pitching to him, where they just threw him 4 straight balls outside the zone that nobody would have swung at. And they're like, oh, they walked him anyway, And I thought it was kind of funny, because I'm like, I get it. They didn't want to hit the intentional walk button. They're like, yeah, we're not pitching him anything to hit. So they're probably going to walk him anyway. So I don't think
what
that
if there was a
penalty
for that?
But how can you penalize somebody for being wild?
But just put someone on second base. They love to do that.
Automatically put him on second.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say though about the man for man debate that I thought was interesting is this. So that game going 18 in the World Series, I hadn't had to think about baseball the next day at that level in a couple of years, in the sense of like, if you guys are watching live, they were warming up Yamamoto. Like, he went to his translator and he was like, tell them I'm ready. I want to go pitch. Right. And Shane Bieber was out there pitching, those type of things. And I was sitting there and I kind of enjoyed that kind of like fear, that anxiety of like, what is going to happen? Like, how is this going to affect the series? This is crazy. And I was very vocal about the fact that earlier in this game that I thought the umpires might have cost the Jays the game anyway by their stupid strike ball thing that left like Bichette hanging out there. That was a huge mistake and a bad umpiring move that it looked like he signaled one way, said another. The players were confused. So I thought the Jays were screwed up. That for me was like, oh yeah, we need more challenges available, or we need more challengeable situations available in baseball. That I will argue. But I was sitting there kind of compelled by the idea of like, what's going to happen here? If you got to use your starter, who is going to go tomorrow? What's going to happen? I mean, I think that Robert said that if it wasn't going to be Yamamoto available to pitch, they were going to have to go to a position player at that point. And I'm like, how do you you got a position player in the 19th inning, we're going 20 innings. And
in the World Series,
like that would have been kind of psycho. So it's an interesting one to think about for the least. I mean, he also just said that. Like, I don't know if that was actually going to happen. It probably was going to be Yamamoto going out there because he said he wanted to pitch and he was going to get that. Kudos to Tom Verducci, by the way. I think it was a really fun call when Will Klein like got out of the inning and he was sitting there like kind of championing the praises of like they didn't know Will Klein, who had never gone more than 30 pitches in the inning, throws his like 72nd pitch to get through 4 innings. He's like, they're going to be talking about you forever, Will Klein. It's going to go down in history if they win. I'm like, good. So I want to give kudos to some good announcing there. But it did have me thinking in a way about baseball that I hadn't in a while, because I'm like, wow, normally this game would have been over 4 innings ago, and I wouldn't have to worry about, like, is the starting pitcher of tomorrow going to have to pitch the next day? And I can see the argument for that on both sides, because, like, I don't want to see them go to a bullpen game in the World Series, right? So, like, I can see that there's an argument to, like, we want more baseball, but you don't necessarily want logistically an 18-inning game in the World Series, even if it's a classic, because it can affect the rest of the series. I haven't formed too much of an opinion on it yet, and I think it's worth thinking about at least. It's interesting because 18 innings, they play 2 full games, so like if this goes to 7, we got an 8-game World Series essentially. Granted, one of them was 0-0 or 1-0, but like, it's something. It's something. It was interesting to see, and maybe they're just going to ban Brad Paisley from doing the anthem, honestly, to avoid that going forward. But on the last thoughts of baseball for the night, I know Luke had mentioned to me that the Mets have hired some trash cans, and it is somewhat of a relevant thought because the Mets, alongside Jeff Albert, decided to hire a Brian Snitker's son, Troy Snitker, as their next hitting coach. And he served as the hitting coach for the Astros from 2019 to 2025, given a lot of credit for getting through from the analytics and things like that towards some Astros hitting. Again, son of former Braves manager Brian Snitker, who I believe is the one that brought them to the World Series, right? Astros. So, this is one of those things where we've got Jeff Albert and we've got now Troy Snitker. I mean, as long as he doesn't try to tinker with Juan Soto's approach, I can't imagine people are going to hate him right off the bat. But as long as he stays off Twitter and doesn't randomly start insulting fans, he might be already in some good graces. But the other news as well is that the Mets may be unable to retain Antoine Richardson, their first base coach, who a lot of people were giving credit for the Mets' very elite second half stolen base percentages, best in the MLB. I don't know. I mean, apparently it seemed like he wanted more in terms of like a position. He might have wanted a promotion. He didn't want to be just the first base coach based on what he did. And the Mets were willing to give him more money, but weren't necessarily looking to move him off the first base coach role. So he might be looking for something more someplace else. Is this going to come down to one of those things where it's much ado about nothing because of the fact that it's just coaches and we're just looking for something to complain about? Or do we think we're going to see some actual changes with the former Astros guys and Jeff Albert and Troy Snitker going ahead and trying to develop some guys? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really have a strong opinion on it until the games get started, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, as far as Richardson concerns, it does definitely stink from a Mets perspective. I mean, Juan Soto had 38 steals this season. That is insane. Like, I don't think he's hit 20 ever in a season before. It's 38. So he'll definitely be missed. I understand if he wanted like a bench coach role, the Mets weren't going to give that to him. They already had that, or wanted to go in a different direction. But yeah, hey, if the team that signs him, you're gonna have at the very least a great first base coach.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this either, but I do know that he has been pretty well respected. And whenever you have somebody like that that's in a secondary role, you have. It's just a matter of time usually before they get poached by another organization. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully expecting now. I mean, the news is pretty much making it clear that it looks like Antoine's not going to be returning. We're going to find out real quick if it was something the Mets had figured out analytically and as an organization that helped with the Seals, or if Antoine Richardson figured something out. And even if so, I mean, maybe there was something that he left on the players that they're still going to continue to be good. We won't know until the games actually get played. As for Jeff Albert and for Snitker, I mean, they've talked about the idea that Snitker's got a master's degree in biomechanics, so he's a very analytical sports science focused guy. He's one of the guys that is focused on increasing bat speed, and it kind of aligns with the way that the Mets are moving in a very analytical direction in terms of hitting. So on paper, it checks a box for me. It's not one of those things where I'm like, hey, what are you doing? It makes sense. The guy's had some success before. They took a guy from Jeff Albert who was with the Astros and had worked with Stearns before. I don't know if I should be concerned that it feels like all of their hires are kind of focused on guys that knew each other, in the sense of like Stearns worked with Jeff Albert and he's like, hey, let's bring Jeff Albert in, right? And Jeff Albert worked with Troy Snitker and he's like, hey, let's bring Troy Snitker in. But if they're successful, I can't complain. So at the end of the day, it is going to be what it is. And we're going to find out. I mean, the one thing about the New York media is that we're going to find out absolutely everything about these guys. And Peter and I will debate about it when he inevitably starts to liken him to Eric Chavez and Osama bin Laden, and maybe I'll like him. Who knows? Or maybe it'll be different, where maybe this time I'll hate him and Peter will be like, no, this is the good guy, and we'll see what happens. But outside of that, I mean, listen, nothing baseball is really going to go on until the fact that the World Series is still going on.
Well, did we announce that the Mets signed Dickie Lovelady to a one-year deal? That officially got announced by us. That's big news, guys.
Here's my thought on that, and it's quick. AJ Minter may need some extra time to recover because of the nature of his injury. He was signed a 2-year deal. The expectation is that AJ Minter comes back, and I feel like early in the season they're kind of hoping that Lovelady can be a guy they can access and use as a lefty until Minter comes back. And I'm not thrilled necessarily about it, outside of the fact that his name is like Dickie Lovelady. I think it's hilarious still. But I mean, that is what it is. I feel like we're not going to get anything significant when it comes to baseball for the time being until the World Series is over and the offseason really kicks out. I mean, we might be on quiet time until even the winter meetings at this point for everybody, right? I mean, I don't think there's anything on the Yankees side, Luke, to my understanding.
Yeah, not much going on the Yankees front right now.
And the Rangers suck, I've been told.
Rangers are not doing very well, dog.
Keeping in the area, though, the New Jersey Devils are off to a really good start once again. This is the third year in a row they've gotten off to a pretty hot start. Tied for first place in the Eastern Conference right now.
You're sitting here like this is a New Jersey Devils podcast. Like,
well, they're in the area.
Listen, Ash, I sit here as a resident of the great state of New Jersey. Nobody gives a damn.
But what I was going to say is to caution the excitement and enthusiasm, because each of the last 2 years they've kind of tailed off as the season goes. Granted, they do have some talented players, but keeping the puck out of the net has been an issue the last couple of years. So we'll see what they can do defensively this year.
The team goes with Jack Hughes, right? If Jack Hughes is healthy, they can push for a playoff spot. But the years that he falls off and gets hurt, the team totally falters. So if Jack Hughes can stay healthy, you got a good chance of making the playoffs.
How are the Knicks doing, Ram?
The Knicks side are 2-2. I mean, they're adjusting to the Mike Brown offense. One thing that I think is funny is that I think in game one, we saw them use 11 players right off the bat. And that was with the fact that Josh Hart was missing the game. And one thing I will say about the Knicks, to give some actual commentary, we saw Deuce McBride was out the other night against the Bucks, and with the fact that Malcolm Brogdon retired like a day or two before the season for the Knicks, and Deuce McBride kind of de facto became the only option as backup point guard, is now going to become a big thing for the Knicks, because at the end of the day, their second unit is going to be very focused on needing Deuce McBride and needing the guys from the bench to step up and do that. I like that they're having Kolek get in there and some other guys kind of mix up the minutes. I've been going into the season saying that I think because the Princeton offense is a complicated one and the Knicks are going from a position where, as much as I did like Tom Thibodeau in terms of his results, a lot of his offense was give the ball to Randall or Brunson and figure it the fuck out. And they're actually running offensive sets and doing things out there right now. So the health of the team is going to be really interesting, because I think talent-wise on paper, they do have the talent to be the top of the Eastern Conference, but they need to stay healthy. Mitch has already been injured. Josh Hart's already missed a game. Deuce McBride has already missed a game. And that's not fun, because these early games need to be chemistry-building games, for the team. And it's going to be important for them to get as much time as possible, because I do believe with the weakness of the East that they're going to end up in the playoffs one way or another. So it's one of those things where you want to have time to build chemistry, figure out what works, what doesn't. We've seen a lot of time given to Ariel Hukporti because Mitchell has been hurt, and he has been interesting with Cat. Cat's been playing injured too because he had a hamstring injury early on. He's been playing through injuries. So it's going to take me a while to really get a gist of what the Knicks are going to be like. But they do look a little more fluid on offense. They've been getting off some good shots. I can't significantly complain right off the bat. They did manage to beat the Cavs on opening night, even though they were shorthanded. So that was a good feeling. They went into MSG, got Mike Brown's first win out of the way. They beat the Celtics too. So at the end of the day, the Knicks will be fine. But you're going to see a lot more nuanced and perhaps like aggressive commentary from me when we get to like a halfway point in the season, because I don't get to say, okay, you have rust about the system and things like that anymore. You know who you're playing with. You know what system you're running. You have to beat good teams later on. So we'll see. But right now, they're looking okay. And I believe that their next game, I have to double check, is coming up very soon. It's on Halloween. I think it's against the Bulls. Yes, and it might be starting off the NBA Cup already, the beloved Saudi-sponsored NBA Cup that the players are losing their minds over playing for. as to which I may keep my personal opinions aside, but I believe the NBA Cup is starting soon, their in-season tournament. So we'll see how that goes. And that's about it on the Knicks side. Nothing too crazy to talk about until later on.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple comments on the Knicks. I like how overall they seem a lot looser. Like they're doing silly fun things post game. They have the best defensive player of the game. They'll give a pair of Timbs and a hard hat to in the locker room, and that's just stuff you never really saw under Tibbs. And like Ram alluded to, even though the bench is a little bit thin right now, you are getting much more use out of your bench. Kolek has actually looked pretty good in the minutes he's gotten. And they lost their last two. They after starting out 2-0, but they beat the Celtics and they beat the Cavs. So those are two of the teams that you're going to have to fight for in the East to get that top spot. So, obviously you're learning a new system, so you expect some growing pains, but there have been a lot of positive signs so far.
Yeah, this is although it was Sports Equinox Day on Monday where we had each of the major four sports playing on Monday. I kind of hate it because it also just feels like one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we were a baseball set of guys to begin with, and we had so much to talk about with baseball because it's every other game. With the Knicks, it's going to be a bit of a process. The Rangers weren't giving me much hope to talk about either. The Islanders don't get discussed on this show, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, we can have a little fun, but I mean, the Jets are on a well-needed bye to relax. We're going to see what we're going to do in a week from now because we'll have a little bit more Knicks stuff to talk about. The World Series winner will be announced, which will undoubtedly either get some people talking as we have to bring our friend Ty on to talk to Luke about how the Blue Jays trounced the Yankees on the way to the World Series. So that'll be a good golden moment. We look forward to that. But as we're wrapping up for the night here, we've hit over our hour mark, so we've done our job. Do we have any final thoughts for the night, gentlemen? Ash, I'll start with you. What do you want to share with anyone as your last thoughts for the evening?
Yeah, Monday night, college basketball is in full swing starting Monday night. The St. John's will have their first game of the season against Quinnipiac. So I'm looking forward to college basketball getting underway. I'm kind of a college hoops junkie, so really looking forward to seeing that. That first week, there's going to be some fun games, too, across the country. So,
yeah, college ball should be a good one here for not only the Johnnies I know we've talked about should be fun here on some local stuff. Here's my final thought for the day because I thought it was very important to share. Magic Johnson, Peter, you might have saw this earlier. Magic Johnson decided to say with the series being 2-2, Game 5 today was very important. Whichever team wins takes control of the series, and I just want to take a moment to thank Magic Johnson because where would I be without you? And if this goes to Game 7, I just hope that you are still here to be able to give me your guidance and tell me what that means because I would be lost without you, Irvin Magic Johnson. Thank you for that poignant commentary on the day. I didn't even know if I could have watched the World Series game tonight without you and tell me what was going on. So I appreciate you. I'll pivot over to Peter. What do you got for final thoughts on the day?
So my final thoughts is, unfortunately, has nothing to do with New York sports. This has to do with the Italian Soccer League, so I apologize to most of you who probably don't give a shit. But
LAPSG.
What?
LAPSG.
That's the French league. Nobody cares about the French league.
So
a couple days ago, very famous team in Italy, Juventus fired their coach Tudor after a very bad start to the season. And it looks by all regards that they're going to hire Luciano Spalletti. Why do I care to bring that up at all? Well, in 2023, Spalletti was the manager of Napoli when they won the Scudetto for the first time in 30 years. After that season ended, he said that he's a bit older, so he said that he needed to take about a year off. It's kind of like, he had an exhausting 2 years and he just needed to take time off. He promised Napoli fans that he would never coach another team in Italy that wasn't Naples again. So he's taking a year off, but he's not going to come back to, play against Napoli. 3 months later, he takes the Italian national team job, and then badmouths the president and owner of the team, pretty much that entire time. 6 months ago, he gets fired from the national team because the Italian national team has not been playing well. until they got a new coach, Gennaro Gattuso, who has kind of turned it around. And then, as I mentioned, it was announced unofficially today that he was going to be their new coach. For those who don't know, Juventus are Napoli's biggest rival. So to go from I will never coach against Napoli in Serie A again to go coach for their biggest rivals, you're a snake and a bitch, bro. So Forza Napoli, and December 7th, Napoli versus Juventus at the Maradona will be must-see TV.
I will say on the non-New York sports front, by the way, I should be clear. If anyone you guys don't watch UFC, but anyone who watches UFC and has listened to this understand, I think Cyril Gane is a dirty fighter. I hate to see the fact that a heavyweight fight had to end on a double eye poke, and then people are blaming the guy who got eye poked for not continuing the fight. You guys don't understand MMA. Fuck yourselves. But I'm going to throw the ball over to Luke here, and thank God you're not Aaron Judge, so you're not going to fumble this one. What's your last thoughts on the day?
Damn.
Under pressure here.
Wow.
Under pressure, what are the last thoughts on the day in the clutch? What can you give me, Luke?
I was going to say, you've hyped the Knicks up so much. I actually sat down and watched a quarter of NBA basketball, and this is how you talk to me. Like, just the amount of disrespect.
What quarter of NBA ball did you watch?
I watched opening night. Opening night for the Knicks.
Good, yeah, that was good.
I sat and watched the Knicks because I knew I was going to have Peter and I were going to have to do a show without you, and I was going to have to say something nice about the Knicks. And there were a lot of nice things to say about the Knicks. I have two final thoughts. Neither are New York related. The first is, shout out to Aiden Hutchinson. He got paid 4-year deal, $180 million, guaranteed. I want to say $145 million. So awesome to see that. He is a phenomenal defensive end, edge rusher. And I'm glad the Lions paid him, unlike the Cowboys with Micah Parsons. So
very good.
He got paid, and he got his due respect. I was on here 2 weeks ago, and I had my final thoughts on James Franklin getting fired. I think it was a very reactionary fire for Penn State, but obviously they're well within their right to fire him. My issue with the firing is now that the school owes him $49 million.
Right.
And I think it's come up again, right? LSU has fired Brian Kelly, and I think LSU is well within their right to fire Brian Kelly. My issue is now they owe him $54 million. This is not a private owner owning a team of professional sports. We are missing the point here, people. This is higher education. This is collegiate. This is college. Like this is supposed to be learning. And you're spending $54 million for someone to not coach a team. It's absurd. It needs to stop. Spend your money on education. This is what's going to make this country better. Not spending money, not giving $54 million for a guy to go coach somewhere else. It's awful. It's atrocious, and it needs to end.
And that's why you're not Aaron Judge. You come through in the clutch. But on the note of that, I agree with you for what it's worth, by the way. I think it's a very good point. And I think one of these days we get into
it's the boosters. And you want to know what? It's worse.
The boosters wouldn't have given it to the university, though.
One of these days, I think I want to get into like one of these like on non-adjacent like New York sports talk ones where like we just do these discussions. And like, no, because a lot of stuff we talked about tonight, I think was good for like long-term sports discussion, like the Manfred Mann stuff, like this, like the talking about the contracts and all that. I do think it'll be good content for us to talk about down the line because
so we got to bring back the BS hour.
We got to bring back the BS hour. We got to talk some sports, have a little sports debate hour. Even if we do it once a week, I think it'll be fun. I'll shout out to any of the people who are out there listening. As always, thebestdamnsports.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on multiple sports platforms, including Twitter and I think still Instagram. I don't know if we have an Instagram still. But you can subscribe to us here on YouTube. We're always happy to have you around. Thank you all for joining us for the night, or if you're rewatching us later, thank you so much for that. Speaking for myself, Peter, Luke, and Ash, we're going to sign off this evening. And thank you all. Have a great night. We'll see you again in a week when we do this one more time.